What I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the topic of loneliness on the road. It's something that, again, I've had so many people ask me about and just, mention, whether it be people I meet in person, people who are doing something similar, or people who are just really curious about this kind of lifestyle. As you know, if you subscribe to my channel, I am alone most of the time because I'm traveling constantly to new places by myself. What a lot of people would assume comes with being alone, and in most cases they would be absolutely right, is a certain degree of loneliness. Now, for me, I do enjoy being alone to an extent. Even before I was living on the road alone, back at home, I spent a lot of time by myself. That was just the way that I lived my life naturally. I lived in an apartment alone, and even though I would hang out with friends most weekends, most of my time during the week outside of work would be spent alone. And it was easy for me to do that because I lived alone, and a lot of my closest friends that I like to spend my time with were a few towns over because I was about an hour away from the town where I grew up. That's where I ended up living and getting a job after I graduated college. I left home to an area where I didn't know anybody, and I got a job there and started to kind of find my place in that town. And for the most part, I sort of ended up being kind of a loner. But for me, that wasn't a bad thing. A lot of people would think of the word loner as like someone who is kind of sad and alone and feeling lonely. For me, even though I spent a lot of time alone, that doesn't equate to loneliness. And that has absolutely carried over into this whole living on the road kind of lifestyle for me, in that although I do love meeting new people and I've been getting better at that as I go, I also still very much treasure my alone time. And I'll find myself, over the span of a certain amount of time, I'll be meeting new people, doing exciting things, and then suddenly it comes to a halt and I sort of retreat back to being alone and going out into secluded places where I can sort of have my peace and regather myself by myself. So yes, there are times absolutely where I start to feel lonely in this lifestyle, but it never has gotten to like a depressing, I wish I had people with me, or I wish I had a partner, things like that, where it's sort of, like eating at me and making this difficult for me. It's more of, there are some moments that are more challenging than others, but for the most part, the being alone for me is a positive in that I get to do what I want to do without worrying about anybody else's desires or their needs. And I get to be alone when I want to be alone without pushing anybody away, because everybody that I'm spending my time with is brand new to me. They're not people who are expecting anything from me. They're not expecting me to spend a certain amount of time with them. So in that way, it's really kind of a benefit to be alone because I'm only worrying about myself. And in that way, I guess that is 100% a selfish way to be, but I don't think it's necessarily such a bad thing, because at the same time, I still am keeping the relationships that are important to me. The people back at home who I would see all the time, I'm still in contact with, and they know I still care about them, and they know that I know that they still care about me. And, whenever this whole journey brings me back there, I'm going to be insanely happy to see the people that I've left, the people that I still stay in contact with. I'm just looking forward to that. It'll be that much better to see them after spending all of this time away from them. Now, there aren't many things that I consider myself to be an expert in at this stage of my life. I'm 24 years old, soon to be 25. There are a lot of things that I've gotten good at that I'm looking at getting better and better at. And there are a lot of things that I know more about and might be able to do better than some people, but I don't think that I'm an expert in anything. With that said, as far as the question, if you're looking to get on the road yourself, if it's a dream of yours, you wonder about certain things. One of those things that you've probably wondered is it going to be too lonely? Am I going to miss my friends? Am I going to miss my family? And, in that way, I think I do have something to offer as far as my experiences go. And if you've been watching all of my videos, you probably have a good idea of, some of the things that kind of like make me up, the things that I stand for, the things that I believe, because I try to be pretty open on this channel. So, if you want to take all of those things along with the way that I describe loneliness on the road, you can use that for your own information, compare that to how you are, and then hopefully that can benefit you and prepare you for your own life on the road. And, for me, being someone who I've always been comfortable being alone, even though I'm also comfortable being with other people. I love meeting other people. Being alone isn't scary to me because it doesn't equal loneliness for me. If you find yourself to be someone who's more dependent on the people in your life, when you're stationary in the same place and, your friends and your family are close by to you, where they're at if you need them, things like that. If you're in that kind of situation and yet you still find yourself prone to loneliness and sort of, dependency, needing these people at all times, then in that case, a life alone on the road is probably going to be kind of a nightmare for you, because you're not even going to have those people in the moments where anybody might agree you need people. For me, when I face situations where maybe back at home, I would be like, oh, let me just call my dad. Let me just call my mom. Let me see, which of my friends I can call. They'll be there for me in this situation. Any situation like that I run into on the road, it's all me. I need to figure out whatever it is that I need to take care of. And I love that. That's a huge challenge, and I think it's a huge growth opportunity. And just in the 5 months I've been on the road, I think I have grown in a lot of ways because of that. But that can be something that could shake you and break you down if you're scared of it, if it's not for you. So that's my biggest advice when it comes to, am I going to be too lonely on the road? You know yourself best. If you're not comfortable with alone time, being by yourself, and if you're not comfortable giving up that security that there's people right by me if I need them, then don't do it. Don't travel alone. If you really want to travel, find yourself somebody to travel with, maybe a small group, something like that. And if you can't do that, if you can't find someone in your life that wants to do it with you, you might want to consider finding a program like Remote Year or something like that, where you're gonna be traveling, whether it be around the country here, like what I'm doing by myself, or globally to other countries. You'll travel with the same group and have sort of like a planned itinerary. That way you have that support system physically in front of you at all times. With that said, if you're not scared of losing that security, losing that physical support system in your everyday life, then get out there and do it, because all that's gonna happen to you by experiencing those moments, those weak moments, those scarier, more challenging moments, and having to rely solely on yourself, all that's gonna happen is growth from there. And it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be challenging, it's gonna be a wild ride. I look back on these 5 months, which have flown for me, by the way. I look back at all the times where I felt weaker or more scared, and I can smile now because I've made it through those moments and I'm where I'm at now, which is, if ultimately I want to be all the way up here and I started here, just from all these moments, these last 5 months, I'm like somewhere right around here. Just a lot of improvement, a lot of progress and growth, more than a lot of the growth I was able to make when I did have comfort and support and security, surrounding me. So it's not, I don't look at being alone, forever as being like such a great thing. I don't know how long I will enjoy being alone, but I think if it's something that you can get yourself to do and you're not so scared that it's going to sort of just, ruin you, then go out and do it, because it's an awesome opportunity. If you are thinking about, traveling alone, if you've traveled alone and you have your own input on this, your own thoughts on it, give me some comments down below, guys. I hope you've noticed I respond to every comment. And if you want to talk to me about something, I'm down to have a conversation. So, let me know what you think down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you tomorrow.
Tom, 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 lele.